March 8th. And Tina and I are here with Tony to bring you some news, local and otherwise. And I would like to put a shout out to some folks that I know are listening in New York and in Michigan and in Florida, all around.
Ooh.
Thank you guys for listening.
Hey,
Welcome
groupies.
back.
Hey.
Hello.
Yeah. So again, it's been another big week. We got a lot popping off in Iran. No pun intended there. But things are getting out of hand pretty fast. There's still been no action on Congress's behalf to declare any type of war.
But
it's
they
all
did.
Basically unilateral from the Oval Office.
Well,
so what do you guys think about that?
Didn't they vote to not put a cap on it recently?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't they try to, what was it called, Tony? Do you know?
I know what you're talking about. They did vote to try to rein in the powers of Trump and
right.
War, and the vote actually failed because a number of Democrats also allowed it to. For various.
Which ones? What was it? And did we ever find out why?
There were only like 60-something that didn't. That was the crazy thing about it. So, and I think we see this all the time. Anytime, and, I think any politician knows this, so we've seen it before. Anytime there's a war, all of a sudden, Democrats start rolling over left and right for various reasons, when it comes to allowing certain things to transpire once we're in this situation.
Yeah. So in the Senate, the vote was 53-47 against a resolution that would have required congressional authorization for continued military action against Iran. And Rand Paul voted for it, and John Fetterman voted against it as far as across
Get that
the
fucker out. I'm so sick of him.
Yeah, and in the House, the vote was 219-212 against. Two Republicans voted for the resolution, including the sponsor, which was Tom Massey, and 4 Dems voted against it.
Well, speaking of that, I was just telling you guys, we're going to talk a lot of international and national stuff, but on our home front, we have really annoying Eric Burleson. We talk about him quite a bit. He likes to do like prison pose pics in front of the inmates in El Salvador that are the concentration camp, people. And he's talking all this shit and he's always up Trump's ass. But I'm guessing he voted no on that resolution the other day in the House. I'll have to double check that. But then he gets on Twitter and posts, Congress must step in if the Iran situation escalates further. I'm giving the president some rope right now, but a ground invasion requires a vote. That's not optional. That's the Constitution. Eric, you don't give a fuck about the Constitution. Yeah. Shut up. But you care about your constituents being pissed about their kids being drafted. So
he's from Missouri's 7th. So that's Southwest Missouri, like Springfield, Joplin, Branson, Nixa, that area.
And Carolyn Levitt said would not deny that they weren't willing to do a draft if necessary when asked that.
Okay, I'm putting $5 on that right now, okay? They will pull the D word out next week. Mm-hmm. They will be talking by tomorrow about a ground invasion, and the draft word will come up next week, and they're going to float it to see how people react to it, just like they do everything. And then they'll decide what they're going to do with that. But they are going to send your sons to the meat grinder. And these kids don't even like to go outside. So at least we have drones. But I'm like, my kids are not making it through basic. Are we doing it inside?
Yeah, 2 months without a cell phone alone, I can't imagine any young person going through right now.
Well, and the thing is like, I don't want, it would be good for them, just the training, but like, no, why? We know what happens when we send our sons to this. And when they come back, they're never the same. Okay. What are we doing? For what? And again, no one can tell me why.
No one really knows.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me mention something about CCOT really quick, which is in El Salvador, President Bukele and where your congressman was recently, this has been, and, I will continue to paint this picture, continue to fill in the picture and the dots over the years, but this has been something that's been in the making for a very long time. And Bukele, president of El Salvador, has been a big part of that. And I don't think people realize how much of a part of it he has been, because what he's doing in El Salvador is he's trying to create economy that's driven by crypto. He actually has some cities that a lot of the vendors and stuff, actually, even the street vendors, take crypto. It's almost like a test run for
Start City.
tech bros. And, and I have screenshots from Konstantin Rykov, who's one of the main Russians involved in election interference in 2016. I have two different screenshots. One is where he screenshotted, I had to translate it only in Russian on Facebook, but it talked about years ago, it was him talking about Bukele and Bitcoin. Okay. So this is before everything we see nowadays and all the connections and everything else. This was before we even knew what CCOT was. And in 2022, which again was 3 years before we really knew what CCOT was, because nobody knew what CCOT was until we started seeing those pictures. And in particular, there's a picture.
Yeah.
There's a picture we saw that has men sitting on the ground, kind of in each other's legs, kind of in lines. And that was what we all saw. That was on our media. That was everywhere. Well, that specific picture, Konstantin Rykov had posted on his Facebook in 2022. It wasn't even a current picture of what was happening in CCOT. So again, it is this long-term plan, so that just has to go tell you, Russian, CCOT, Bitcoin, everything that we know is going on right now. It's something that they've been working on for a very long time. And, my buddy, not so buddy, Paolo Zampolli, even has a picture with Bukele on his Instagram, so I don't know, not to get off onto all those tangents, but, I keep saying, pay attention to what Zampoli's doing, because he's out there meeting everybody, doing all kinds of back channel shit.
I'm seeing his name pop up a lot more. And people are starting to say his name more than I've ever heard. So they're starting to pull the string. I just wish everyone wasn't so slow. I'm sorry. No one who listens to us is slow, but everyone else is slow. Okay?
Catch up already.
I still don't understand why, he's got 16,500 followers on his Twitter account. Most of them could be bots. Who knows?
Yeah.
I'm literally the only person in the world who is usually commenting on their shit. And he gets 1 or 2 likes on his shit. I do not understand. And I keep even telling my followers, please help me put a spotlight on this motherfucker. But
I'll help.
I see a few people commenting on him, but I'm like, why am I literally the only person in existence who's calling out this person regularly? And he is like one of the biggest smoking guns when it comes to Epstein. I mean, no doubt.
Well, people haven't realized yet that the faces that they see as the enemy, there are people behind them controlling them, okay? And Zampolli is one of those people. Most people don't know who he is, but he is pulling a lot of fucking strings. And that's how they like to keep it, so that it's secret.
Tony, can you just remind everybody briefly who Zamponi is? Just why he's important and where he came from?
So Paolo Zampolli, I'm going to give you my quick, fast 2-minute version.
He's got his chart. He brings in his charts and his
Paolo Zampolli is what is Milanese on that. He was from Italy. He grew up, and his father owned a toy business, the most successful toy business in Italy, that in the 80s had rights to all the Star Wars merchandise. And in 88, his father died. He was only 18 years old when his father died, but one of his good friends at the time, John Casablancas, who owned Elite Models back then, talked him into selling his father's business. He sold his father's toy business to a former Prime Minister of Italy, Silvio Berlusconi, who has had his own sexual abuse issues in the past, including possible pedophilia. Zampolli then became part of the model world with Casablancas, and from information I found, he was involved with not only Silvio Berlusconi, Flavio Briatore, who dated Naomi Campbell, who was Gianetto's bestie for a while. Flavio also has a daughter with Claudia Schiffer. Is it Schiffer? Yeah. No, Heidi Klum. He has a daughter with Heidi Klum, along with Seal. Seal has kids with Heidi Klum too.
Weird.
Daughter, And Zampolli then is the person who brought Melania to the United States and helped her travel across the United States, or travel from Eastern Europe to the United States. What I've read is Zampoli's role in the whole operation was handling visas and getting people immigration paperwork to get into the United States. And that's what he did with Melania. The first 10 months that she worked in the United States, she worked illegally. She was on a tourist visa. She earned, I think, $20,000 over that first 10 months illegally working here. And then about 4 years later is when she was finally, or 2 or 3 years later, she was introduced to Trump by Zampolli at the Kit Kat Club, a party that Zampolli was throwing with Roger Stone was in attendance, Epstein was in attendance, Trump was in attendance, and I can only imagine
all the best people.
All the best people. And then when you get to in the early 2000s, in the late 90s, Amanda Ungaro it's more than 2 minutes, I apologize. Amanda Ungaro was trafficked on Epstein's plane, and she flew to Paris with Jean-Luc Brunel, who was also a partner of Zampolli and that crew. She was trafficked at that age. I think she was 16 at her first flight to Europe. And about 10 years later, Zampolli hooked up with her, and they never got married. But they did have a child together, and they were together for a number of years. They actually spent most of their holidays at either Mar-a-Lago or the White House once Trump took office. And now Zampolli has a special envoy title, which allows him to travel the world on our dime, making backdeal channels with the worst people out there. All you have to do is go to his Instagram page and look at it. It'll tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah. And then tell what happened to Amanda Ungaro.
So in 2018, they separated and started to have a battle over their separation and their child. They reconciled, I think, in 2020 for a short period, but then broke up again. And most recently, last summer, they were getting into a heated custody battle. And subsequently, she was arrested for conducting non-licensed cosmetic procedures in South Florida. And she disappeared off the radar. And it turns out she was moved to ICE custody, and ICE deported her to Brazil, which was a convenient way for Zampolli to circumvent the custody battle.
Very convenient.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, imagine being separated from your son. I just couldn't imagine someone taking my child and then deporting me and having, but you notice this is a pattern with these men, like they're pussies and cannot deal with women that are, okay. People are so afraid of coming forward with these pedophiles and these rapists, and I get it, but also this person couldn't fuck an adult, okay? Like, they're picking the most vulnerable people and abusing them because, like, what are we scared of? Like, you couldn't even fuck an adult, so you fucked a kid. Like, I'm not scared. You're picking on the smallest in the world, that can't fight back. So that tells me that you can't fucking fight. You know what I'm saying? Like, so these people that are doing these terrible things to vulnerable people are actually pussies. Okay. I just want to put that out there. Seriously, you don't abuse vulnerable people that cannot fight back unless you are weak yourself.
Well, and that segues us to Trump, who, there's all kinds of documented information that he's an individual that just revels in being cruel to others, dating back decades.
Well, and I think it's key, and that we were talking about earlier, and I want to talk about it now. I think it's key that we help people understand. We've heard for years now that Trump is an abusive person. We've heard from his own mouth that he's an abusive person. But, the other side continues to, try to deflect and point fingers elsewhere or make excuses for whatever it is, blame the victims, everything else. But I think the key for everybody to understand is the literal documented abuse that we continue to see over the years that come out. And there's been a lot of stuff that's been out for decades. And we may have heard about a couple things here and there, but nobody ever took it super seriously for various reasons. And one of those things, for example, is the alleged rape of Ivanka. And I posted the paperwork about their fight on unsealing their divorce papers prior to the 2016 election. Apparently, they went to court. Somebody wanted to get those records unsealed, and Trump wanted to keep them sealed because they contained information that would make him look bad. So
now, is this Ivana or Ivanka?
Ivana. Yes.
Ivana. Okay. Just clarifying. Just making sure my brain was in the right spot.
Ivana, so when they settled their divorce, part of the agreement was her retracting from her statement about him raping her. But that was part of the deal, so she would get more money, essentially.
Right.
You retract this, we'll settle and agree with you better. And we see a continuing pattern of that, but she even gives the details in her biography, regardless of what it is. And in the paperwork that I showed you, it's obvious that the details of the attack and what happened weren't what they were worried about as much as concealing the details. So it wasn't a matter of saying that this didn't happen. It was a matter of saying
no one can see this
and making sure nobody believes it.
Right.
And that's the same thing with the Stormy Daniels thing. They tried to hide his affair with Stormy Daniels. He's had affairs with women while he's married. We know this. When we look at documented paperwork, I cleaned up the FSB interview, and I posted that recently, showing that even Russia knew how he felt towards women and how abusive he was towards women. There's an official document that says that. When we look at the key incident from the Ritz-Carlton in Russia, the incident itself isn't about Trump being peed on or peeing on anybody. I know this is a weird situation to discuss.
Yeah, but you're consensual. You want to be pissed on? I don't give a shit. Go.
Yeah, but it wasn't about that happening. And when they tried to make it all about that, because they were trying to deflect and discredit the story, but the actual story is about the fact that he was staying in the presidential suite at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. Russia actually set it up. So it wasn't something Trump was actually actively trying to do, but it was one of their compromise things. They set it up that they sent hookers up to his hotel room. And there's also documented information from other reports that show some of those people that worked in the hotel have disappeared. They intentionally were disappeared because of the information they knew about this incident. Some of the employees from the hotel were disappeared, but they do have eyewitnesses from other, like Senate Volume 5 report that discusses this in greater detail. There's a lot of information that gives a lot of credibility to the circumstances that happened. But what happened was Putin set up these Russians, or he had people set up these Russians, hookers, to come to Trump's presidential suite where the Obamas slept in the bed that he was supposed to sleep in that night. And he had the hookers pee all over the bed to defile it because he hated the Obamas. Now, that's the Trump we all know.
Right.
That is the horrible, revengeful person we all know. I often also bring up the Richard Branson interview from about 20 years ago, where he discusses he had lunch with Trump, and all Trump talked about during lunch was getting revenge on people, and revenge on people who wouldn't help him when he was having financial trouble. This is documented fact, so you can look it up yourself. Just Google Richard Branson interview, Trump lunch, and you'll easily find this. And basically all he talked about was trying to get revenge on people. And now look where we're at. And
Susie Wiles, remember in her interview for that magazine, she was like, well, I'm letting him get revenge right now because that's what he's doing, but it's not going to be that bad. And if I need to put my foot down, I guess I will, or whatever, but I'm like, wait, what? Susie, come on.
And then we have, the Access Hollywood tape, which is his own words about how he treats women. We have files that are being released right now that talk about him treating a 13-year-old girl a certain way, abusing them, speaking derogatorily towards them because they weren't
walking in their dressing rooms.
Yeah, and we've all heard the rumors about him abusing Ivanka, and there's a lot of credible things to look at when it comes to that. There's question about her having had an abortion possibly when she was a teenager and modeling in Europe with those pedophiles. I mean, literally, she was modeling for elite models owned by John Casablancas, who we mentioned earlier.
And we've seen the photos of her modeling then, and she does not look like a 13-year-old girl.
And he is a known abuser as well. And he passed away already from cancer. But and then there's the Twitter post from one of her friends, Lauren St. Domingo, who talked about getting abortion back during that time. The question is who may have been the father. The speculation was either Casablancas or her own father, is what the rumors are about that. We know that he's talked about sleeping with her openly. We know that he sat next to her talking about sexual stuff on shows before.
That's weird. Like, if my dad ever, my dad literally, I've met creepy dads, but I mean, that's the normal, that's the fact that she sat there and it was no big deal shows you how normalized that is in their lives. And that, it happened. You should, that one time where she's showing everybody her house or whatever, or her childhood home, and she goes into her room and looks at her bed, and you just, like, as a girl who was 10 at one point, the look in her eyeballs, I'm like, you're being a terrible person now, but I'm so sorry that happened to you when you were a child. Like, I'm so sorry.
Well, and I think it's important for people to understand we all have implicit biases based off of experiences we've had our entire life. And women go through a lot of different experiences that men don't go through because of their sexuality. I mean, that's just clear. I'm sure you could give us a handful of stories of just stupid misogynistic things you've dealt with, or even direct abuse you've dealt with over the years, just being a woman or a young girl in school.
Someone who can't fight back the same as a man.
Yeah. And, and men kind of, don't understand that perspective for various reasons. We can be empathetic, but we still have never experienced it. And, a lot of what women experience when it comes to that misogyny and that, verbal abuse and whatever over years is very similar. And this is what I was going to bring up earlier. And I want to try to find the right context. Is very similar to being a different color in the United States.
Right.
And, and a lot of people don't understand that, or having a different last name in the United States. It's amazing. My entire life, I walk in and people are always like, oh, you're not what I expected, because I was 6'3" and lighter complected.
With Gonzalez. Yeah. Sorry.
And, it's because of their own bias. And, I know we were talking, Lisa, you were in Florida recently, and one of the things that people don't understand that's happening right now is everybody with a different last name or darker skin, any action we take that seems like just normal stuff to even both of you is stuff that we have to second guess. I had lunch with my dad in Iowa today because that's where he wanted to go. But I live right across the river. I could be in Iowa in 5 minutes if I wanted to be right now. Mm-hmm. I don't like to go to Iowa because it's a red state and I don't trust a red state. Okay.
Right.
And even if I want to fly somewhere, I might want to fly to California to see my son and grandsons, I worry about what could happen if I go to the airport because I've got a last name, or when I'm somewhere else. Lisa, you had been in Key West, which is very liberal. I know that. And that's definitely a different part of Florida. But just, I think it would be amazing to be able to go to Key West, but I wouldn't fathom going to Key West right now because I have a Latin last name.
I don't know if you're coming back.
Than most people. You know what I'm saying? And those are things that a lot of people don't understand how it's affecting all of us. And I think the easiest way to equate it is to kind of that misogyny that women do over the years.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Tony. The best way I can explain it is to ask a person, what steps do you take to keep yourself safe when you leave your house or when you go to do a certain activity? And in your case, your step is to avoid going certain places where bad things could happen. For all of us that have gone out running, maybe we have some spray, or, you hold your keys in the parking lot a certain way, or, you leave your house, you perhaps some people think about what they've got on, what they're dressed like.
Or you put your location on your phone and send it to somebody.
You go place in groups. I mean, women could list off, like, we could not even think about it and give you 25 different things we do at any given time to try to keep ourselves safe. And, you know, maybe if you're a person of color, you're like trying to be non-threatening so people aren't scared of you, or, you know, maybe you make sure you're not the last one in a building when the security has to get turned on in case it malfunctions and now you're the only one there. You know, the list goes on and on.
You don't have expired tags.
Yeah. There's a lot of people, and most of them are white guys, that none of these thoughts has ever had to cross their mind. I'm not saying they don't have problems, but it's not this.
No, and that's absolutely true. I mean, I was talking to my dad about it earlier today. We were talking about this, and he goes to a lot of bars to play pool, an 80-year-old, but I've got a lot to live up for. I'll live up. He's still going to the bars, playing pool, and trying to find me a new mama. But
good for him.
But he talks about, you know, he goes, and there's a lot of, I mean, we're, you know, Midwest Illinois, there's, you know, it's still 90% white where I live. And, you know, he's going into these bars, and a lot of them are redneck bars. You know, my dad is a nonchalant, I'll deal with anything type of guy. But he even says he's noticing and how people treat him a little bit differently. Or people have asked him, you know, do you, like, in jest, but it's not in jest, do you have papers? I mean, my dad literally has been here since he's 6 years old, and he'll be 80 this week. You know,
This is his home, and they're insinuating that it's not, and they're trying to take that away, and they're trying to destabilize so that nobody knows what's safe, what's not, what I can do, what I can't, who's the police now, who's not, who's going to turn me in, can they? You know, every time I post something online, half the time when I post these podcasts, I lay in bed and I'm like, ooh, man. Remember my chickens died the other day? My brain told me that it was like the Freemasons coming in and killed all my chickens in the middle of the day because I did an interview with a survivor. You know, that's so. I mean, they're trying to make you feel unsafe. They're taking away your safety.
But I think the large picture thing of this is understanding that right now the people that are being attacked in this nation equally are women and minorities. Period.
Yep.
And when you combine women, which are more than half of the population in the world, with the minorities in the country, most of which are hopefully finally waking up, because even my dad and I talked about those family of ours that don't quite get it yet because they're still out there, you know, we have to get to those people to help them understand the dire situation that our nation is in right now. And one of the things I know we were going to talk about is the lack of information or misinformation with the war. We can't trust this administration on any type of information. Look what they're doing to job reports and financial figures.
I think our safest bet is to probably follow BBC.
Well, BBC, I was reading some reports, and I think BBC got bought out or has been taken over by the same type of people that took over our media. But Al Jazeera, I can't fucking say it. And then that one. And then there are a couple apps that I've actually found that conflictly, and that actually shows you like minute by minute what's going on, and then it has the sources under it so you can go and look it up on your own, but it like compiles it all in real time. But what they're again gaslighting you. They're doing the George Orwell where they're like, don't believe what you're seeing with your eyes. And then they're taking away any information that could be coming in about it so that we can't even analyze it. So how many bases have they destroyed? Or
10 or 11 bases.
Okay, and how many people are they telling us were casualties?
6. And that's
okay.
That's where it just gets insane. And, you know, I mean, the thing, you know, I don't want to be a doomsayer. I mean, I posted things about this because I just try to speak the truth and reality. And logic tells you that if we have 10, 11, 12 bases in the Middle East that were all targeted by Iran when we attacked them initially, because yes, it was the United States that attacked them, and it was confirmed that it was the United States that bombed the school with
A school. What do you call people
Full
that
of little
shoot?
girls.
What do you call if someone bombed one of our schools? What would
terrorists.
you call that? Okay. So what are we?
We are terrorists.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
So we've got, let's say 11 bases that were bombed, and in most cases, a lot of these were what people weren't expecting. Either they were these cluster bombs, which as they get close to the target, they shoot out all these. They spread out, 20 projectiles of smaller munition type of things that then scatter over an area, or they're shooting, a dozen ballistic missiles at a site. Okay, so pardon me, and I believe it was the ballistic missiles that were being shot at the bases primarily was the ballistic
Yeah.
missiles.
Yeah.
And when you've got a dozen ballistic missiles all coming at one time, and even if you have a sky defense, even like the Iron Dome in Israel, it takes 3 of their defense systems to take down one missile. So think about logically and common sense wise.
Yeah, it's too much.
When you've got 12 missiles coming at a target, like 11 different bases, and we may have defenses, but I guarantee you those defenses didn't keep every ballistic missile off of its target. And then it's not like we even just abandoned the base because we thought something was going to happen. There may be bunkers, there may be other things, but it's naive to think that there's been 0 deaths. And it's naive, and think about it, we haven't even heard about casualties from the different nations from these attacks.
Well, and then Lisa was saying that we'll have to start looking at other, global news, and we are, and so it's funny because you're like, who do I believe? Our government is telling us 6. My brain is telling me no, there's no way. And then you get and you read from these other news stations, and they're like 600. Okay, so I'm guessing it's probably somewhere in the middle of that. Just because, of course, we're gonna have propaganda on both sides, especially because Iran, you know what I'm saying? But we have state-run media, so you are going to find nothing in state-run media that is going to inform you about what is going on truly. But you look at, okay, so what are some clues we can look at that would tell us a true casualty count?
Well, one of them is what's happening in Germany at the hospital there. I know the Lindahl Hospital is, I think it's what it's called. They actually stopped taking pregnant women.
Maternity patients. So they shut down their maternity labor and delivery ward, so I was trying to look up these things that would lead me to there's a problem at those hospitals and tried to not be dramatic about it. Like, okay, has this happened in the past for another reason that wasn't a big deal? So the couple things about those 2 hospitals. So those 2 hospitals are the intermediaries. Like something happens, they stabilize them, they get them there and stabilize them further and then send them to Walter Reed. Is that how that works, Tony?
I believe so. I think the one thing I want to interject here too is that we have to consider that, you've got different types of casualties. You've got death, and then you've got injured. So, there's those numbers going on too. I mean, how many injured people are there versus how many deceased people from these?
How many people didn't even get the chance to go to the German hospitals? Okay. Right. So so we don't know that. I don't even know how you count that. But as far as the hospitals go, people being flown in, they put out a big announcement asking for blood drives. Okay, that tells me that we'll
at least they're anticipating a change.
Correct, correct. So
maybe it's not come to fruition yet, but
correct. But then you add the rest of the stuff here. So they shut down the labor and delivery ward and diverted all the maternity services, which I looked up. In the past, they have done that, but it was not very common at all. And then, so when a soldier dies and they deliver the remains or, return the remains back here with all of their belongings or whatever, it's to Dover Airport in Ohio is where I was reading that. So that's going to be a place for us to look. What's the traffic coming in there? Okay. And then there was an Indeed.com job posting for a specialist.
Oh, yeah.
And the description of it is literally receive the soldiers' bodies, prepare them, prepare the belongings, document everything. So whatever that job is called, they were hiring that. So for 6 people, I don't know how many people it takes. I'm just adding little details together. But that's suspect, okay? Like if only 6 people died, why are we hiring this? So just all these little things telling me. But then
Something
again,
is
you would
amiss.
well, right. Like there's something they're not telling us. Oh, and also there's fucking satellites all
Yeah.
over this whole goddamn globe. And they shut them down. Like we can't get the surveillance.
Yeah, they put a 96-hour hold on all satellite footage, and then you look at what's happening in Israel, where they've actually done a media uh, shutdown, basically saying they will arrest anybody who posts pictures of the destruction in Tel Aviv and elsewhere. I've read about that. I mean, you have to look at the lack of information as opposed to whatever information we're getting. And reality is we should see live stream video from news people. And I know there was a CNN report, I think yesterday or the day before, where they were live and they couldn't cut away before you see the bomb hit behind them. And so there's a lot of this stuff going on where they're actually suppressing the truth rather than being transparent from the most transparent administration in history, right? And
I mean, honestly, they did rename it Department of War, so they did tell us. But continue.
The other thing I want to point out, I talked about this earlier too, is the Abraham Lincoln, the USS Abraham Lincoln, which is a nuclear-class aircraft carrier. I actually was stationed on it back in the early 90s myself when it was brand new, and we were sent out to the Persian Gulf in 1991 after the first Gulf War, and we did 3-month circles in the Gulf to show power. We were the strongest, newest, biggest ship in the entire world at the time, and they usually, at the time, they were keeping 1 aircraft carrier in the Gulf at all times as a show of force. And currently, Abraham Lincoln was in the Persian Gulf, and there were reports from Iran that they had shot ballistic missiles at it. And if you go back to what I explained earlier, was that they were shooting multiple ballistic missiles at a target as opposed to 1 or 2.
Right.
An aircraft carrier is definitely the most protected ship in the world. It has a fleet of ships with it. But when it comes to multiple ballistic missiles coming at, high speed range, there's very little to do to stop it. And so there's no proof of life, so to say, for the Abraham Lincoln. What I mean by that is that it didn't happen. There's no media that has shown us. The first thing we know that happened once this was reported was the Abraham Lincoln was pulled immediately out of the Gulf and put into the Indian Ocean, is what we were told. Okay. Well, that's unusual for one. Okay. Like I said, when I was there in the early 90s, we sat and did circles for 3 months. So if nothing's wrong with it, why didn't it stay there? Mm-hmm. And it had taken certain attacks, nothing to the extent that it sounds like they were dealing with now, but we had Iranian small boats come towards us when we were there, and we'd have to do general quarter drills and all of that. And for 3 months, we did all the, stuff that we did, just being at sea. But, for them to pull it immediately out of the region and into the Indian Ocean is suspect. For them knowing that this is such a high-profile incident that has been reported, it's been media silence. They have not shown active pictures. So back to the Lincoln. So we've got no credible proof of life, so to say, pictures of it sailing in the Indian Ocean. I've seen one picture that stated that that was the Lincoln shooting off planes to do sorties in Iran, but there's no confirmation. There's no way to know that's actually the Abraham Lincoln. They don't show the bridge. They don't show the rest of the ship. They don't show anything. So
it's hard to tell what's going
based
on.
off of the lack of information we're getting, that something happened to the Lincoln. It is probably, it didn't get destroyed enough to be sunk. It didn't get, but I think at least one missile probably grazed it or hit it and caused damage enough that they needed to pull it out of the area, and they're keeping that suppressed. But if one missile if you had a direct hit the Lincoln, there would be literally at least 100 plus casualties. I guarantee that. I mean, I guarantee they were probably already at general quarters. General quarters is when there's an immediate threat to the ship. And what happens is they do an all hands call for general quarters, and each of us had a place on the ship that we were assigned to, and we had to immediately get to that place. Mine was a shaft alley. I had to climb 30 feet down a ladder into a shaft alley at the bottom of the ship. And there's a big room that had a giant shaft that was, 5 feet wide, spinning because, we're at sea. And I had to sit in that little room with headphones on, and I had to check in every once in a while. But basically, if I took a direct hit, I'm done.
You were shafted.
Yeah. So I have a lot of questions about that. And it's not to be sensational. It's not to cause division. It's not for anything like that. It's because...
it's just a valid curiosity about what's going on.
True. I mean, there's
the information you gave me does not make sense with what I know to be true.
Exactly. Yeah. And and then a couple of pictures, which just gives some insight into why I felt that, and compared it to a picture. And I have a picture. I could probably go find a bunch of pictures of my ship from when I was on it. But the one I found right away was the one that showed that mast behind me that you could see pretty much matching. And you have to also figure. Somebody said, "Oh, that doesn't match," and I'm like, "Well, you have to also figure it's been nearly 30 years since I was on the ship, and it's been upgraded significantly over those 30 years to meet its current technology. So I'm sure there's certain things that are a little bit different than from when I took it."
But I could see it in the back photo, for sure.
So, obviously and the media is complicit completely. So we're hearing nothing from the media, and all of social media is now controlled as well. So we're seeing nothing
by Israel,
nothing in social media. And you're right, by Israel, because that's what this war is about.
Well, and then, how we were talking about the voting earlier, and how Dems were voting to not reel in the presidential powers of just willy-nilly bombing people. Well, if you look at the AIPAC tracker, which is Israel's lobby company, they're all fucking owned by Israel anyways. So I feel like our military is almost for hire now. I feel like he's renting it out.
On that note, you have to wonder, and we don't know, but there was a lot of classified information in a bathroom at Mar-a-Lago. We don't know what was there and what found its way to persons that are making decisions about this stuff these days.
Well, we do know two things about that classified information. One, about classified information in general. One is that on May 10th, 2017, when Lavrov and the other guy from Russia, they're both Sergeys, when they were in the Oval Office where they were not allowing any U.S. media to be in there.
Yes!
There was Russian media there.
Trump gave Trump gave Russia intelligence on Israel. We then also know that after he left office and he was at Mar-a-Lago with an Australian billionaire and Kid Rock, or Kid, what's his name? I call him Kid Dumb as a Rock. And
oh God, he is special. He's such a whore. He's such a music whore. Pick genre, Jesus.
So while he was there, Trump was waving around and showing attack planes for Iran that had been brought up for him. So, who knows? I mean, I would imagine that either those attack planes were given in some way to Israel at the very least, to Russia at the very least.
I just hope I live long enough to see some accountability for all this bullshit. I mean, the list is long. I would like to see some accountability for any of it.
My list looks like Trump's revenge list.
From this to the Epstein files to just anything would be a good start.
Well, that's where the problem is where's the accountability going to come from? And we talked about this.
Us. It has to come from us.
And, we can sit here, we can podcast, we can weekend protest. I saw that March whatever is supposed to be the next.
Children, save our children or whatever. Oh, the No Kings is on the 28th. Yeah.
But after this vote that we talked about, Congress is just effing worthless right now. absolutely effing worthless, and so is the Senate. And they're supposed to represent us, and that's what they're doing, just dicking around and letting the insane man in the White House just fucking blow up the whole world. I know Tina's going to put this on social media.
Well, no, I just feel like, they promised all this transparency, and I think honestly we're getting it, but it's just not the way we thought we were going to get it.
We're getting it
like
because
we're learning way too much. Well, they're just like blowing it. They're just showing us straight up, like, no, we give zero fucks about you.
Zero.
Yeah.
None.
Oh, absolutely. And, when you look at the larger scheme of things and how long this has been going on, and you connect it to, Epstein and Russia and everything else, there's so many pieces of the picture that are coming together. There's a document that was just released within the last 24 hours saying somehow Epstein was funding ISIS. I don't know if you guys saw that. Yeah.
Oh, for God's sake. Are you serious?
That he was funding ISIS. He was circumventing a way to fund ISIS. So I think as we learn more and more, it's going to be, again, a clearer and clearer picture. And then we know that Epstein, his loyalty seemed to be more to Russia than to Putin. Not to Putin, but to Israel, in my opinion, based on what I've seen. And then when you get to, when I posted about it the other day, Russian Jews, in the Steele dossier, they talk extensively about Russian Jews. And in Glenn Simpson's testimony, and I just posted this yesterday, I found that he literally talks about the Kushners originally being ethnic Russian.
Yeah, Russian Jews. Yeah.
So it all comes, the painting becomes clearer and clearer as we get more credible information.
Well, we're trying to get back to the Holy Land. Like, the Jews' true, in that part of the story, like, and that's why they need it or something. I don't know. But speaking of, so all signs point to Russia and Israel at this point, okay, never mind. I'm not going to say that out loud. Okay, but I found this document. So, because I'm like, again, who is this benefiting? Why? What's the narrative they're giving me? What's the actual narrative? Who's benefiting, right? So I saw this document from the Department of Treasury, and this is our Treasury, and I think that they're taking away sanctions for fucking Russia.
Yes.
Is what it looks like. So it's like General License 133, authorizing the delivery and sale of crude oil and petroleum products of Russian Federation origin loaded on vessels as of March 5th, 2026 to India. So now they can sell their oil to India again, because Iran's not going to be fucking able to, because they just shut down the Strait of Hormuz or whatever it's called. Yeah. So
I'll let you go.
There's a connection. No, I'm just saying Russia's benefiting.
I have something I'm working on right now, and I'll give you a little piece of it. Is in 2007, I was able to confirm the dates that there's that picture of Ivanka, Eric, and Don Jr. in Russia. Ivanka is wearing a fur coat that has stripes on it, white stripes on it. I think everybody's seen this picture. And then there's a woman there. So I finally today, and I don't know off the top of my head, I don't remember everybody's name, but I finally identified what year that picture was from, because I'm actually writing a thread, putting together a thread about Ivanka and her trips to Russia and her connections to, as well as Wendy Deng, and how she's been involved in all of this. In that particular picture, when I finally figured out who the other people were in the picture, they were all oil people in Russia back in
oligarch type people.
Oligarchs, yeah. They were all and real estate, of course. But I was like, why were they meeting with heads of oil companies back in 2007? And every trip has been under the guise, and every time I find a picture and I look at the trips that they've taken, it's all under the guise of a Trump Tower Moscow, even though it's been 20 years that they've been doing this and they never successfully did anything. So the reality of it is, what have they been doing in Russia for 20 years? Where's the money going and coming? And I'm painting a clear picture of that right now based off.
Yeah, no, that's super helpful.
But
the money.
Yeah, it's just insane where we're at right now. If any legitimate journalist would have done some fucking work just to show the things that we knew prior to 2015, going back to 1976 alone with Trump and his family and all of these horrible other people that are now in our administration, we wouldn't be where we're at right now.
Well, I will tell you, though, we have had the person who wrote several fucking books about it on here. I think he was one of our first people we interviewed. Craig.
Mr. Unger.
Yeah.
Craig. Good old Craig. What's his last name again? I can't remember.
Mr. Unger. Craig Unger.
Craig Unger. And yeah, no, seriously, we should have like a round table, see if he wants to come on, because we had him on last year sometime before this shit really started popping off. And I mean, he called all of it. I remember reading his book and I was like, oh my God, Russia. Okay. And then he has this book, Den of Spies. I need to read it again. I listened to it on audiobook, but I'm pretty sure that has all of the shit with the oil and all of the current stuff going on. So I need to reread that. I got lots of stuff to read. But yeah. So,
I'm sure he's just somewhere looking out the window, staring into the distance, sipping coffee, saying, I told you so.
Well, but no one, but people, the society was not at a mental place where they could take it in. They couldn't believe it. And I knew the first time I read the words, I was like, oh shit, yeah, that's what's happened. Okay, Craig, thank you for telling me, because I knew something was weird and this resonates right here. That makes sense. Yeah. And so, and you can corroborate all of it. Like, it's facts. You know, when people are like fake news, and I'm like, not everything is fake news. I don't. No. But yeah. So that's cool. I'm looking forward to that, Tony.
You know, ultimately, we're at a point in history where you either believe reality or you don't. And it's almost
discernment.
It's just that simple. And the people that don't believe reality, I personally feel that right here in the middle of their gut, they know it. I do feel that right here, they know it.
Yeah.
So what is it that's going to get them to release that, to accept the fact that they were conned, accept the fact that they were wrong, accept the fact that their hate is unacceptable, accept the fact that their bias is unacceptable, and we're not going to tolerate it anymore?
I think it's going to have to be their sons being drafted. Or it's going to be different for every single one of them. But I
don't know that I'm optimistic enough to think it's ever going to happen, frankly.
Well, there's going to be the portion of people that it never happens for sure.
Yeah.
I do think that if there's somewhat of a draft, or, you know, this is where, as the opposition, as the resistance, as the voice of reality in the United States, we need to determine what tactics are best going forward when it comes to what we're dealing with. And one of those things that may be, in my mind, helpful is if we elevate this discussion about the draft to make sure people are prepared for it to happen and use kind of their own tactics.
And you have to, there are a lot of people out there that claim that they couldn't vote for Kamala Harris because they thought she'd have us in a war with Iran.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. Okay. And I think that's a good point.
So either they were lying and they didn't want to vote for her because she was a woman of color, or they're super pissed right now, right? Because.
And I would say I have actually had a couple coworkers that Epstein Island, they were like, I didn't get a ticket. That's the only thing I'm mad about. But, you know, the war last week, I was like, hey, buddy, why are you so pissed? You know? And he's like, this fucking war. And I'm like, oh, because your kids are in the military. Okay, now you care. Okay, it had to be them.
Well, and I think that's where maybe, you know, whether it be us, whether it be other groups, whether it be, you know, something can happen where we actually elevate this voice of, you know, the large percentage of the MAGA crowd was against any type of war. And look where we're at now. Trump has bombed 8 countries this year alone, or in his first year alone, which is more than any president has ever done ever in history.
Well, case in point, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yeah. You know, she's popping off about it.
She can admit she's wrong. I am so proud of her, even though she's still a piece of shit snake.
We we have faith in you. Not really, but they could if they wanted to.
She just sees the ship going down. I think you're seeing the people that are like implicated and really fucking implicated. Like they ain't jumping off. Yeah. These people are like, okay, maybe I can give some information that'll cut me off. Like I only had sex with like one kid. They, like I'm serious. What?
I agree. I think to get away with. I mean, we know that Marjorie Taylor Greene asked for a pardon 3 days after she was sworn in as a congresswoman.
Like, you didn't even have time to get in trouble, bitch. What?
She got in trouble right before, though.
I'm impressed.
So, I give her, I still have very little faith, and I wouldn't let her hold the end of my rope if I was going over a cliff. That's for damn sure.
Oh, no. No.
Nope.
She does do CrossFit. Maybe she could. I don't know.
Oh, those CrossFitters are super MAGA. A lot of them are.
Well, gross. Well, they obviously love cults, so it makes sense. Okay, what else do we have? I mean,
if you're out there in CrossFit and you're not MAGA, let us know. I'm curious.
Yes.
Drop us a line.
Yeah, because I've known some CrossFit people, and every single one of them have been MAGA.
Well, really, all I know. What? Oh, it's Coco's birthday. Okay, I'll come get you in a little bit. What was I gonna say? Well, CrossFit. Really, the only thing that I know about people in CrossFit is that they fucking do CrossFit. So, because they, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm glad they're physically active. I have seen some concerns about form. I got to tell you, but surely that's a very umbrella statement. So I'm sure it's not applicable to everybody.
Hey, you know what? They're trying to get out of the draft. They're trying to, tear a tendon or two, which honestly, with the draft, people, when I bring up the draft, all the MAGAs that I say it to, I'm like, are your sons ready? Have they packed? Like, did you get your letter? And they're like, I'm too old. And I'm like, no, like, instead of sending you to a concentration camp, they're going to just send you there because it's cheaper.
It's doing that in Russia. I think the age limit's like 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's going to be like
the front line.
1930s Germany, 16 and up, every single person. So bone spurs or not, you're going. So I'm going to be like, hey, you don't have to fly me over there. You can just end it here. We don't need to go. Save a ticket.
All right. On that note, it's been about an hour, y'all. So thanks to all our new listeners and old. And I forgot to give a shout out to Iowa too. So got new listeners.
And we also are terrible about telling people to like or subscribe because I don't like to tell people what to do. But if you want to, that'd be super cool. So we can like get up to like 90 people. But no, I'll take it. No, that's great. That's great. Any action item? What?
I send my dad every single podcast. He listens to every single one. So I'm going to give him a special
happy birthday
shout out to my father.
Yeah. Happy birthday,
Happy birthday, Big Daddy. I hope you don't get drafted.
Yeah, he's looking for a mama for me. Remember?
Oh, ooh. Okay, well, we'll get him on Tinder when we come and hang out, okay?
Yeah, I told him, I said, I would like another brother or sister.
Oh, God.
And he's not opposed to dating younger, so...
Okay.
Wow.
I think
live your best life, pal.
Hey, we'll get him some Cialis and get him going. I'm sorry. Too soon. Sorry, Tony.
Tony doesn't need to think about that.
Sorry, Tony's dad. Happy birthday. Okay, guys. Well, you guys have a great afternoon and enjoy the nice weather and daylight savings since our elected officials can't even get rid of that. Yeah. Whatever.
Try harder.
Useless. Okay. All right, guys. Well, I'm sure we'll be back with another war soon or my draft letter. One of the two.
One or both.
One or both.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.